So now we segue to John Laurinaitis.
Oh, God.
John Laurinaitis, and we're not going to spend any much time on his rat, but, you know, this guy is the lowest of the low. This motherfucker is now claiming that he is a victim, that his lawyer is saying that Mr. Laurinaitis not only denies the allegations, but like the plaintiff, he is a victim in this case. He's claiming, now I understand the lawyer, Kev. I said this on Friday. If you committed murder and you hire a lawyer, whether you paid for the lawyer or a court appointed you, you know, to defend someone, even if you know that the guy committed murder, your job is to defend him in court. So this lawyer obviously has to defend John Laurinaitis. That's what he's being paid to do. So he's got to try to come up with some scenario. And this lawyer says that Vince McMahon pretty much controlled him the same way he controlled this woman. And my immediate thought, Kev, without getting into graphic stuff, when this woman kept going to his hotel room for quote unquote breakfast, how come if he was so bullied and he didn't want to do this and Vince was putting, why when she came over the house did he say, look, let's both tell him that we slept with each other, you know, and, you know, just make me breakfast. And you're like, she really made me breakfast. Like, why did he still sleep with her when Vince was not there? When she kept going to his hotel room, like Vince is not like, I need proof. This guy, for those that don't know, Kev and I have been doing this together for 20 years now. And back then, Kev and I used to talk about Amy Weber. We used to talk about Candace, Carmela de Cesare.
Oh, yeah, Carmela. Yeah. The original Carmela.
Yeah, the original Carmela. And a whole bunch of others. Johnny Ace used to go through model magazines, negligee magazines, and find models in there that he was attracted to and tried to get them jobs in the WWE. And more than one of these women, Johnny Ace has hit on back in the day. Yeah. This guy is notorious. He's a male, you know, listen, I mean, look, you want to get laid, fine. But to try to act now like he was this prim and proper guy for all these decades, it's ridiculous. It's hilarious. And
I think the word you're looking for is lecherous.
Yes, it's lecherous. I still don't know what that means, but I'll take your word for it. You know what, Kev? I don't know how much of what this woman said is true. I tend to believe that almost everything she said is true. I don't think you can make up some of the stuff that she did. But I will say this. I could only imagine if she was devastated before, I could only imagine that one of the people that she is accusing of the R word has the balls through a lawyer to say, I'm a victim also. Imagine you being sexually assaulted by someone and that person goes public and says, I am a victim too. There's something wrong with this guy.
Yeah, no, there's no, yeah, I mean, rat, I mean, that's probably a nice word. We can call him some other things, but yeah, I mean, listen, he's trying to get out of something he's not going to get out of. This is there's a lot of bad roads to travel. This is just as bad, but his lawyer's probably going, there's a few ways we can go. We could claim insanity, but that's probably not going to work. Or we can do the you're a victim too thing because Vince is your boss. Vince is this domineering presence. He's got a rep that people always even feel nervous. You can make like he's intimidated you since day one. Problem is, John Laurinaitis has been in this business for 35 years. He's been in offices. Remember, DT, he worked for Baba in Japan.
Yes.
He worked for the NWA, WCW.
WCW, sure.
WCW, New Japan. This guy's been an office guy all over the way. Come on. Vince McMahon is not fucking goading him into doing anything. Listen, birds of a feather. Don't you think so, DT? Him and Vince maybe have the same sexual proclivities, and that's what kept Johnny in the job for the longest time. Got him as an on-air talent. So maybe they had those late. Remember when who would say Bruce Pritchard would talk about these late night writing sessions and meetings that Vince would call because Vince doesn't sleep, and Bruce would talk about going there and he didn't talk about sex stuff. I'm not implicating Bruce Pritchard at all, but he would say, you get there, Vince is there, or Laurinaitis is there, or whatever, and people writing, and Vince just, you never know, and when he's around people. you don't know what they talk about or what him and John talked about. Maybe, again, that's what bonded them, was maybe this kind of freakish sex thing. What were we talking about, DT, that movie, Eyes Wide Shut syndrome?
Yeah.
Right? Where Johnny's like, oh, you're into that too? You're into degrading women? Like, you never know what boys talk about or what guys talk about. You know, and that's why I was saying, DT, he's more inclined to talk about that with John Laurinaitis than he ever is with his fucking son-in-law, Triple H. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
When you're with, you have friends, you guys probably know this too, that you probably navigate. I got a problem with my wife. This is my friend I could call. I got a problem. This guy's intimidating me at work. I'm going to call my friend who's like a tough guy. He's going to tell me how to get. You have different go-to guys in your life, or people that you entrust with certain things. There's certain things you won't tell other people. But I have this feeling that Vince and John Laurinaitis were fair weather friends in the sexual deviant department. And now Johnny is just like, they want Vince, really. They don't want me, right, DT? It's almost
that's why I put the rat thing. That's why I think he's going to be a rat.
Right.
He give him cheese, that motherfucker. If the feds come calling, because look, he didn't do NDAs, so he didn't do anything illegal as far as NDAs go. But if they want to use him as a witness against Vince McMahon, I would not be surprised if this guy tries to turn and acts like a rat to Vince McMahon. And I personally think that this guy is trying to do this to save his marriage as well. I mean, the thing I can't get past is if he feels that Vince manipulated him into do this stuff. This is not a 16-year-old person, who's inexperienced in being groomed. This is a man 62? Who, even Shane Douglas talked about it. When they used to be the dynamic dudes, Johnny Ace used to, in the hotels. We hate using the term rats in 2024, but back in the day, I used to joke around how Bill Alfonso used to have rats. I mean, just imagine him with his crooked teeth and the whistle, and girl wants to have a whistle blown up her ass. Everybody had a rat. Except for me, but
oh my God. Well,
it's not funny, but it is.
How do you blow a whistle up somebody's ass?
This guy acting like that's the thing that amazes me. And I'll say one thing in closing. Last week, Kevin and I are fearing that Vince is going to have the "she wanted it too" defense, and if John Laurinaitis is that brazen to say publicly that he's a victim, when he is accused of committing sexual assault. I mean, who's going to believe that somebody else controlled him to the point that he didn't know in his right mind what he was doing? Imagine somebody pressing you, Kev, you better rob that bank. Kev, you better rob that bank. Kev, I'm going to be disappointed in you. I'm not going to ever look at you the same way. You got to rob that bank.
You'd have to put a literal gun to my head.
Yeah,
But DT, here's the thing, we'll agree on this. He's got a much bigger problem with Laurinaitis telling his side of the story than even this woman giving her side of the story. Like, Laurinaitis is his big albatross here. Like, the woman, okay, her story, we get it. But Laurinaitis could be the real, nail in the coffin, so to speak, for Vince McMahon. So right now, Vince, I think, is thinking more about fucking John Laurinaitis than he ever is about this woman right now. Maybe he's thinking about both, obviously. But Laurinaitis, the only thing I hope Laurinaitis doesn't do, like a lot of rats do, DT, is implicate other people just to be on a revenge tour.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If I'm going down, I'm taking everybody with me.
Yeah, if I'm going down, I'm taking everybody with me. Man, I hope he doesn't do that, man, because that would really fuck up a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If there's no concrete proof, I don't think the feds would even pursue those avenues.
The fans take that into consideration too, that John Laurinaitis is not a bastion of honesty. Look what he's doing to save himself. So I would hope the fans don't get on a fucking click if Laurinaitis names somebody that there's no definitive proof. Maybe, God, who knows, Bruce Pritchard, someone like that, Kevin Dunn.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence. I would hope the fans will be like, well, wait a second. Unlike this woman's testimony, I'm going to take a step back on that because this motherfucker has no credibility.
I absolutely agree. I just, it's going to be weird because he's being accused of sexual assault and trafficking, John Laurinaitis. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that even if he's found guilty of that and he has to pay money, and then he also turns against Vince with the feds, the wrestling community would probably feel he turned babyface. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he committed assault, but you know what? He ratted out the guy that controlled him.
I don't know,
because I think they just hate Vince that much more.
A lot of people in the wrestling industry hate Laurinaitis more than they hate Vince. I'm talking about the wrestlers.
Oh yeah, the wrestlers themselves.
The wrestlers
Johnny Ace
themselves
has been perceived to be a scumbag his whole life, so it's very hard to feel like he's a victim now. But his lawyer's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. Save your client. Do what you got to do. I mean that's the whole name of the game. Whether it's on the up and up or not, that's just the name of the game.
Yeah.